We're looking to start seeing how interesting people are into seeing more content on security. So if you're really interested in these things and want to see more hands-on, more stuff, make notes on the forums because we're going to start looking towards what we do next year. We've got a couple ideas and we just need to see how people are interested. An extra day, do it during the conference, that kind of thing. Okay, how many of you were here for the first session? Most of the room. Okay. First session, I told you they know who you are, they know how to find you, and why they're looking for you. Now, this is going to be, for some of you, this will be fairly basic. This is some of the basic things you need to do to start to protect yourself. Okay? Later in the sessions, we'll go into, the next one goes into how to do it at the router level. Okay? Following sessions will show how they hack you, and you'll actually get to watch as Philip tries to hack the system. Later, you'll get to watch Near tomorrow, actually try and do the forensics, the CSI of how did the attack go. So we're trying to kind of flow with this, unlike past years where it was different tracks, different people, sometimes saying conflicting things. Okay, basic methodologies, strictly in there for the video clip later. Okay, looking at things down at the operating system level, and I've kind of divided this up to different levels of what you need to know. Okay. Looking at the operating system level, one of the things in doing the audits I've done and talking to people, there are problems with their policies. There is no official policy for passwords. Okay? When you cancel a mailbox, when you create a mailbox, who gets a mailbox? Okay? You need to have standard policies, you need to enforce them. Okay? If you do not have it documented, you do not have it enforced, it does not exist. And you will find people who work around it. Okay? In Israel, we've got this very basic concept where this is the rule, and this is the way people do it, okay? Everything is around here, under the leg, behind the back. I worked for one company where the joke was that to get the job done, you needed to do everything with bubble gum and cellular tape, masking tape. Then I had to actually go to the point where I hung up on my wall my own bubble gum and my own cellular tape just to show that I had to do this myself to get it done, okay? When do you update your operating system? When do you update all of your Apache servers, all of your other things that are installed on the PBXs? Okay? So this, and making sure that you have set policies, do not ever give out the root password. Do not do any of your actual asterisks or free PBX or other work as root. Always come up with an admin password that is limited and has control, so you always have some fallback. So basic things that come with internet rules that you should just pay attention to, okay? When we did some of the audits, what we found at the PBX OS level, okay, we found an average of high-level problems was 18.6 critical problems per PBX. The worst PBX I've seen so far had 117 critical exploits available. Average worked out to be about 8.75 or 54, okay, for the mediums. Okay, lows are less concerned, but you really need to worry about this fact that 18 critical failures per PBX is the average. Okay? You need to have the update policies. Okay? Some of the examples of what we've seen. Okay, first one, the Apache Web Services range header denial of service vulnerability. Kerbos, multiple integer overflow vulnerability. CentOS update kernel, okay? The MPEG player denial of service vulnerability at Linux, okay? These are common problems that happen, and if you don't do your proper updates on this, okay, SU-C yum update, okay? Do the updates fairly regularly. There's a reason why there are security updates to these systems. Don't ignore them. Okay? Now looking at the PBX. Okay? Again, incomplete or non-existent passwords. Okay? How many of you know people who are still running the basic default passwords on their PBXs? Barely in the door and you're already raising your hand. Okay? Multiple PBXs, if you've got large environments, they shouldn't all have the same or sequential passwords. Okay? Try to show a little creativity, try to make it a little more challenging. Okay, this also will come true when we're talking about phones. Okay? Don't make the secrets for all of your phones the extension or a sequential number. Okay? So We've run into a number of cases where default passwords on the phones, okay? And remember, every phone with a GUI can be hacked, and at the phone level, that can be used to do redirects. Okay, again, PBX and phone firmware. They're security updates. Look at them, update as needed. Sometimes it's easier or harder depending on which version you're using, but pay attention. Okay, in the first session I mentioned something that happened when we were in Denver 2 years ago. Somebody got up and said, my company was hacked for $400,000 in 2 days. The parent division put a PBX into their data center, locked the password and didn't give it to him. 2 years it sat there without any Asterisk updates. Somebody hacked it and it took 2 days for them to hit $400,000. Their ITSP, their internet provider, did not notice, did not care. The tier 2 above them did. Otherwise, they would have been hit with over $1 million in a week. Pay attention to these things. The updates are important, okay? One of the things I mentioned before is how you advertise. What you let people know about who you are, what version you're running, is basically putting up a big neon sign going, hi, I'm running Asterisk 1.2, come hack me. Be careful, okay? Mailboxes. Who gets a voice mailbox? When do you create it? When do you delete it? Why do you need a voice mailbox in a conference room, a copy room, the kitchen, or the lobby? Okay? All of these things can be hacked and set to auto-forward. Okay? Do you need to allow all of the destinations? In the previous session, I was talking about it. There are a number of places that are known to be fraudulent termination places. Do your customers or do you really need to have 24/7 ability to dial into Afghanistan, Palestine, Britain? Okay? These are common places that fraud terminates. Pay attention. Do not let all employees make international calls. Not necessarily even long-distance calls, although these days domestic and Canada here are pretty much included, so it's not a problem. But who needs it and why? Okay? And make sure you're doing some sort of monitoring beyond just looking at the end of the month at the bill. Okay? There are a lot of different tools out there, Humbug being one of them, that will actually give you a real-time idea of what's going on, what fraud's going on, because if you do not watch, if you do not have any documentation, the phone company will present you a bill, and you have no choice but to pay it. Okay, unless you want to screw up your credit rating and find a new phone company. Okay? Common configuration problems. Okay? There are common attacks that are known out there. Okay, SIPVicious lists a couple of them, for example. Okay? The context for SIP trunks. Okay? If I'm doing a SIP trunk or an IAX trunk, why am I doing it with a context of from internal? Okay? Even if it's inter-office, from internal leads you to potential problems. Okay? Using old PBXs or old extensions. I've come across a couple of places where they had old PBXs still installed theoretically for hot swap, or they forgot about it, but they were still connected to the network. Take them down. Okay? Link other things that people are connecting to, Skype. Pay attention to what the connections are. Keep them updated. Keep on top of what they're going on. Okay? Do a proper network diagram. Follow things. Do it down to the code level. Go and look at those complicated config files, okay? Because you will find things hidden in there that you completely forgot about, or your predecessor put in that you forgot about, or nobody bothered to tell you, okay? And I'm sure all of you have seen, I've taken over a PBX that somebody else installed, and there were surprises, okay? You do not want surprises. I'm dealing with one company now where we've taken it over, and the dial plan for the codes, it's first it goes to a ring group, then it goes to an extension, then it goes to a trunk. Then it goes to an outbound route, then it goes to a trunk, and at different places it's doing different manipulations. So trying to figure out the spaghetti code is taking us weeks to try and map out individual numbers. Try and make things clean, clear. Look where you're putting the various mappings, where you're doing the translations. Okay? It's important because somebody has to maintain this. And no matter how well you think you know it and you'll remember it, 6 months from now, after you've done something completely different, there's a problem, you go, what was I thinking? What does this mean? Okay, pay attention. Dial commands, and we'll get into that in a second. Okay, the other thing that we're seeing is a case of, are your phones on the same network segment? Are they actually physically able to connect to the outside world? Or are they on a network segment where all they can talk to is the PBX? Be careful on how you're setting up your VLANs and your internal segmentation. If you're doing it all on one big flat network where your PCs and your phones are all able to go out over NAT, out through the firewall to the world, you're setting yourself up for trouble. Okay? Taking the enumeration attacks. Okay? Simple brute force attacks. SIP-Vicious offers a way to attack. SIP-Vicious also gives examples of how you can protect. Okay? Pay attention to these things. Okay? So again, unlike the previous one, I'm actually putting in here commands to look. So at the asterisk level, the always, auth, reject. Okay? There are SIP settings under the settings tab in free PBX, for example. Okay? Or you have to go into the SIP-comp file to configure these things. But you need to go in and make sure that you are actually protecting yourself because denial of service and enumeration attacks are common today. Okay? Basic hack attempts. Okay? Do not be on the public internet. Have a SBC, a firewall, a NAT. Okay? Firewalls for VoIP do not have to be big and complex. Okay? So I'm going to give an example. This lovely little Technicolor box is a Pika VoIP firewall. Perfect for a small office. Ethernet in, Ethernet out, and you can connect via USB to actually do the configuration. Okay? Relatively small, straightforward, strictly for SIP. It's not going for a full-blown, I have to figure out checkpoint and what ports to allow, what ports not to allow. Very straightforward. There are products out there. Use them. Okay? Look at Humbug, look at Pika, look at all of these various things. Configure things. Okay? Fail to ban. Okay, last year there were various talks on fail to ban. It's good, it's not good. Fail to ban does certain things very nicely. It will not stop everything. It will not even stop most things. But if you get fail to ban to stop 40 to 60% of the stupid things, and then you get a firewall to stop a different 40 to 60%, and you have a session border controller to do it, the overlapping services eventually mean that you're relatively protected. Okay? No matter how protected you are, and we'll get to this in a second, it still doesn't solve the cleaning lady deciding at 11 o'clock at night to pick up the phone and call her family from wherever she's from. Okay? The security guard, the delivery person, all sorts of people get access to the physical network. Should they be allowed to do this? Should the phone in the lobby have international dial rights? Should it count as a from internal, or should it have its own special context? Okay? There's a number of options, and I'll talk about it. Context based on groups who have specific rights based on what that group is, not based on from internal for everything. Think about these things. Okay? In the previous session, I talked about a service called Shodan. Shodan is a Google for hardware. People were advertising Asterisk 1.2. Whatever as the version of what they were running on these IP addresses. It's like holding up the big door, a big sign saying, I'm here, attack me. Okay? So again, going back to context. Okay? All calls on a trunk or a route that have the from internal context count as internal. You can make long distance, international, transfers, forwarding. All of these things are possible. Be careful where you allow this. Does it really belong on every extension, on every trunk? Okay? Okay, be generous in the uses of context. Okay, so for example, use context of from SIP provider. Okay? Use the provider name, whatever. Give them various rights on that call that don't allow them to make outbound calls. Okay? Or various other things. Set up different things. If I'm doing it, this is from IAX or from another office. Configure these things differently. Do not use the default from internal. It leaves you wide open. It's great for a telephone extension. For the physical phone in your office, from internal makes sense. For the trunk to another location, it doesn't. Think about it. Okay? Be careful with the dial commands. Okay? Very easy to make a mistake when using the parameters lowercase t versus uppercase t. Okay? Common mistake. Okay? You will notice lowercase t, lowercase r, uppercase r. Okay? By doing this, this means that anybody on that line, inbound call or outbound call, can now set up a call transfer. So somebody from the outside has now called into your company, gotten voicemail, and has the option to dial 9 to make an outbound call to wherever they want. Premium number, satellite phone, international number. You've just given them the opportunity to use you as a telephone company. Okay? Again, okay, this just goes into more detail for the presentation. Okay? Capital T, remember, allows the calling user to transfer the call. Lowercase makes the called user. Okay? And old PBXs, inbound trunk versus outbound, made a difference. In Asterisk, it doesn't make a difference. Everything is treated the same. Pay attention to these things. It's very important to follow this. Okay? At the physical level, okay? Who has access to your server room? I mean, it sounds stupid, but who actually has the key to get into the room and can actually go and touch the machine and make physical connection or changes? Okay? Who has access to your office facility off hours? Cleaning people, security people, employees have access 24 hours. You have a 24-hour help desk. Who has access? What should they be allowed to do? How can they do this? Okay? Most of the fraud that we are seeing, night, weekends, or holidays. These are the times that people get hit because nobody's there to notice. So I can go and hit every extension in a company until I find one that lets me, doing simple brute force attacking until I get in. Nobody cares if it's Sunday morning at 2 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's going to notice. So you need to pay attention to these things. Okay? Other things to pay attention. Remember the bill. Look at your bills, look at your contracts, pay attention to the hardening. Okay? There will be more examples of things. The next session after this goes into discussions about things at the access level on the router. Okay? Look at what you're allowing at the port level, at the actual configuration, how you do the routing. Use fail-to-ban, use these other services because they do make a difference. Any questions? Not a one. Okay, I must have done something wrong.
Yeah, give me a sec to get the microphone over there.
Usually when we do the security sessions, if we don't get at least one person coming up to us at the end and going, "You scared the fucking shit out of me," then we consider it a failed session. Here we're doing 2 full days, so if we haven't terrorized you, I was talking to the guy on the video, he now knows things to worry about that he never knew were even possible to be worried about. Okay? This is what my sessions are about. Know that you are vulnerable. People want to attack you for profit. Okay? Then there's the other group who are doing it maliciously just to deny you business, deny you services, deny your customers access. So it's important. You had a question?
Yeah. I realize it might be difficult to keep something like this up to date if something even exists, but is there anything in terms of a unified best practices documentation, site, wiki, anything that we can go to that we can start checking off the list? Yes, I did this, I did that. Oh, I didn't think to separate out my context, and this guy can dial in and dial out.
There are a number of 10 things to do kind of sites and things like that. Nir and I keep talking about putting out something like this. There's a lot of things that we can do, but it's a moving target.
There was, I don't know if there still is, in the Asterisk source directory, a security best practices document, which is a very low level kind of, I mean, very high level, sorry, a very simple kind of, this is what you should do with your context and things like that, but not any of this
it doesn't go into a lot of details, and it's not maintained and updated as people find new problems.
Plus,
we were actually
sorry, a lot of the text documentation's actually moved out of the source onto the Asterisk wiki now as well.
Yeah, we had been looking at the possibility of doing a book that would explain how to do security, and then discovered that it's difficult because every couple of weeks somebody's found a new exploit, a new attack. So we can give the basics like I am here. We can go into a lot more, and the basics can easily cover a full day hands-on. This is how you do it, and this is showing you on Asterisk, free PBX, PBX in a flash, elastics, and these are the ways to configure it. But the reality is everything I teach you today, somebody in the room is going to be looking and going, aha, wait, there's a way around that. And as I said in the first session, I do not assume everybody who's in the room for these 2-day sessions is white hat. I mean, Matt here is wearing black today, but this is purely coincidental for the discussion, okay? There's a lot of gray area. There are a lot of people who deliberately go out and do this as a living. Sometimes they don't even know what they're doing is questionable, okay? We have heard cases of people being hired by perfectly legitimately seeming companies who are getting asked to create dialers so people can do attacking, who are being created to do all sorts of things, and don't realize that this simple little code that they're being asked for is really part of a criminal activity.
There's also an Asterisk-security mailing list, which has sat quiet for the last couple of years since it's been created. There's been discussion over the past couple of days, yesterday and the day before in the Astro DevCon, about starting to get some of the content onto that mailing list, and some discussions about the security of Asterisk. There's a new security framework for pushing out security events, and it needs to be fleshed out. So if there are things that you want to see in Asterisk that will start to trigger events, and that's a place to discuss it on Asterisk-security.
Yeah, one question. When doing, your regular updates, from the repository, have you ever experienced that causing a regression in your software? Like, we use Asterisk more as a platform than as a PBX, so that's one of the concerns that we have is, is this update to, FFmpeg or something going to disrupt our services?
Okay. The simple answer is no, I have not personally come across this, but my experience and what I know about these things is, although it is never intentional, yes, when you get an update, sometimes it breaks something or screws something up that worked fine before. Asterisk is an incredibly large number of lines of code, and it's really easy for things to be screwed up when they make updates. And the same goes for all of the various flavors. So I couldn't actually give an example where this has happened, but it would surprise me if it never did. Pretty much everybody who puts out software, you put out an update and go, oh shit, I need to put out an immediate patch on top of the update I just put out. If it hasn't happened to Asterisk up until now, I'd be surprised if it never does.
In terms of pure security, there's the Asterisk bug track. There's the bug track mailing list, BUGTRAQ, which is security on all things Linux, but the Asterisk security vulnerabilities get posted there as well. So you can actually patch the source yourself if you just want to apply a patch for security things. API and things should never change within a major release of Asterisk, so you shouldn't get breaking changes. It has happened in the past, but changing between major versions like 1.8 to 11 or something like that, 1.4 to 1.8, those do create breaking changes. So if you're staying within the point releases, you should be good, and if you want to be totally secure on it, then you can just apply patches manually just for the security patches.
Yeah, so the basic answer there is stay in touch with the community, see what's going on in the mailing list and stuff. The community is really good on, we need something, we add something, we put it in. There's a problem, somebody help me fix it, or this is a problem and here's a fix I found. Does somebody have something better, or do you need it? Compared to other communities I've dealt with, the Asterisk guys, everybody here is interested in sharing information and pushing the envelope as far as they can. Okay, and it's not just because they want the street cred of saying, hey, I fixed the problem. A lot of these people legitimately want to spend the time and effort to fix things and help out. And you'll find some of the most basic questions getting asked on the mailing list, and you're like, wait, I've seen that question 1,000 times. And occasionally the answer is, yeah, that's over here in the wiki, there's a simple answer. Other times people will stop and repeat the example as needed. And the mailing list can add up fairly quickly if you want to pay attention. The security one I haven't seen anything on since I joined it. So it may be possible that we'll start sticking things out there and making suggestions. But like I said, I know a number of companies, a number of products that are related to security that are very active with dealing with the Asterisk community. Not just Pika, whose box I'm carrying today because it's small. White Monitor, SIPVicious, all of these things are humbug. There are all sorts of projects, commercial or free, that are out there that are looking to make things better. So, any other questions? We've got another 10 minutes before I lose the room.
Yep.
Question. We use Nessus for our internal security audits for ourselves out from the internet to come in, mostly for PCI compliance and things. Is there any other software you recommend that would help aid in that kind of scanning for vulnerability outside?
I'm going to let Nir answer that one. I was going to say Matt, the run.
Okay, so anybody know what Nessus is? Hands up. Oh, good. Get a good crowd. Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know, Nessus, sorry, is an automated vulnerability assessment tool. It was created as an open source product like almost 10 years ago, but now it's gone commercial, most of it. It is very good to use Nessus to go about and scan for your well-known vulnerabilities, operating system vulnerabilities, and so on. But anything that is directly related to how your Asterisk application works, if you're, let's say, I'm not talking about PBXs such as Free PBX or Trixbox or Elastics or any of those because these are well-known packages. So Nessus and all the other scanners, be it Nessus or VAS, there's another one, OpenVAS, which does the same. It's basically a fork of Nessus. So, what? Satan hadn't been updated in years. Yeah. So most of these tools are very good for updated packages, things that you know on the market that are readily available. Anything which is specific to your application, you've written some kind of custom dial plan. You have your own application. You've turned your Asterisk into a prepaid environment for roaming SIM cards operating somewhere in the Isle of St. Augustus. Anybody done that? No. Okay.
Anybody know where it is?
It's somewhere in the Bahamas, I think. So if you've done that, then Nessus won't help you one bit. Nessus and all these automated tools, all these automated mitigation tools are really good for what's out there, for what's well known. If you've got something you've developed on your own, they're equal to squat. They won't do anything. You want it assessed, have somebody else look at it. There's one thing that I really like about Agile and Scrum. It's called peer programming. The idea that you code and somebody's sitting in your back going, no, that's wrong. This is exactly the case. You need somebody to go, a third party that doesn't know what your application does, to investigate what it does, to look at it from a new perspective and say, no, that doesn't make sense. If you do that, I can do this. Simply because we as programmers, we as developers, we do not see the entire picture. We see the use case and we solve it. We're completely incapable of looking at the use case and covering all ground because we simply don't have time to do that. Marketing comes in, I want that feature. When? Preferably yesterday. Anybody got that answer once? More than once? Every 6 hours? Every 4 hours? Yay! So this is how it works. We're confronted every day with a situation where we are, by definition, cannot push out a fully secured solution because marketing wants to go out and sell. At the end, it's the bottom line. So we keep running after it. So if you're doing something, make sure you have somebody at the back end, a third party, looking at your stuff saying, yes, it makes sense, it doesn't make sense. And one thing that I'll mention in my presentations is that everything is, there is a cause for everything. And primarily in Asterisk or in every platform, security is not an issue of vulnerability assessment or patching your systems or writing secure code. It's one thing and one thing only. And it's the only thing that 95% of people always forget. It's just design. If your platform is designed from scratch to be secured, it will always be secured. After, when we'll take a break, if anybody wants some example, I'll be happy to give some. I'll also talk about it in my session tomorrow.
Okay, just to take that one step further since the topic was brought up, here I've actually included in the presentation headers, it's the OpenVAS, if I remember correctly, was what these were taken from. Each one of these worked out to be between a half a page to 3-page description after the header. What is the problem, how it was found, how you fix it or where you can find the fix. Okay? 90% of them basically boil down to do the update. Okay? But the simple fact of the matter is we've had customers, I showed you 117 of these for one customer. 400 pages of descriptions.
Skype
So-
vulnerability.
So the problem is they're out there, they're known. As you were saying, if it's a known problem, this obviously, okay, Apache fault, CentOS faults, okay? These are common things that people are checking and looking for vulnerabilities and posting, okay? Your own internal code, unless you've found a problem with it, nobody knows about it, okay? 9 times out of 10, you only know about it because it's broken. Somebody's complained. Okay, we've got time for one last question if there is one. Otherwise, we have to force the next speaker to actually come up and give his talk.
Just a reminder to everyone to fill in your surveys as well. And there's pens at the back, and you can drop your surveys as a, I was going to say bin. There's like a box thing at the back that you can put your surveys in.
Table.
Table. Well, it's like a,
It's on the table.
yeah, on the table.
Okay. Yeah, the hotel was very nice to give us these lovely little shiny silver pens. Please use them. If you want more security after you've listened to me or to the rest of the talks today or tomorrow, make sure you let the guys over at Digium and TMC who's organizing and collecting the surveys know. Last year we got a lot of response, which is how we ended up with being 2 full days today. Next year we're looking at, there has been talk about doing 2 full days, doing it pre-con, doing it post-con. If you have preferences, if you want more hands-on, set it up, and actual working labs and stuff, write it in the notes, let people know, because they're starting to organize next year, probably in a week or so. They'll get over it, they'll recover from this, they'll get back to the office, and they'll go, okay, what do we do next year to make it bigger, better? We're eager to go out there. I like to joke, I'm trying to do myself out of a job when I do the security stuff. I'm pretty sure I never will. But it would be nice to know that I can get rid of some of the simple stuff by giving you guys all the tools and the knowledge that the biggest problem is you need to know that it's a problem. Okay? And that would be it for me today.